Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Okay, let's go.
I know it's already a long day, so I try my very best to entertain you a little bit as good as possible and guide you through all the things we have done in the last year and what we are currently working on, what I can show you, what's coming next. If you have been in that talk in the last years, you have noticed that we talked about a lot of Icinga DB, which took a lot of time, years, to be implemented the way we wanted it. And so at this point, it was not always easy to really tell about the new things. And this year, I have a different problem that I have so many different things to tell you. And I don't know how to cut out and find a good niche for it. So it's a lot. We have a lot of time. So walking to the event starts at 6:45. But I try my very best to kind of be in time. That's me. My name is Bernd. I'm with Icinga from day one, pretty much. You can find me on X, which a very low activity, using getHash. I talk about the Icinga stack, which is our understanding of what Icinga is. Infrastructure monitoring, automation, cloud, metrics, and all that stuff. So this is the different areas where we see our different products, because as you know, or hopefully know, so who has no clue about how Icinga works? To just get an idea. Somebody a totally newbie? Fair, yeah, Gerhard, yeah, of course. You are. Perhaps you don't know how Icinga works, but you are not a newbie. Okay. So anyway, I try to find the right balance. If you don't get anything, or if I'm too fast, or let me know. So I assume there's a general understanding what Icinga is, what our concepts are. That the Icinga stack consists of different modules. You can use, you don't have to. So it's not like a big thing. There's like different parts you can configure to your needs and your requirements. And so this is the reason why we separate the different modules we have in these technical areas. To make a little bit of self-advertisement, of course we have users, and we have more users than customers, but of course we also have customers. And what I would like to encourage, we have some interesting success stories on the website where you can see what people have done with Icinga. Blarim and Angelika investing a lot of efforts into this. There's a pretty new story from the Westropical Public Health Institute we have on the website. Sun Chemical, which is one of the largest ink producers in the world, which is super interesting. And also from Müller, should be a well-known drugstore brand in Germany. You can read what they are doing. And again, I also did this in the morning on another head. I would always encourage you, if you use Icinga or if you any monitoring tool and have an interesting story to talk about. If you use Icinga, let us know, it helps us. But if you use like SubX or whatever, tell them, help them to promote and learn what you are doing with their tool. And also, of course, participate in a call for papers and tell others in a conference, because this is super helpful. We sometimes really work hard to get into that conversation with a customer and say, tell us what you are doing with this. And even they think, and I told this as well, it's super boring. We learn it's typically not. They have also some interesting things. They are doing things with our software. It was never planned to do it this way, and we think it's perhaps we would think it is a bad idea, but we figure out it's a fantastic idea to do things how they want it. And with software which is open source and have kind of an open standard, so if you have an API, it's also super easy to do things perhaps in a different way. So again, I would encourage you, if you use Icinga, let us know. If you use something else, let them know, because it helps us as an open source industry to learn what you are doing. So now I go a little bit into the technical details of what we have done in the different parts of Icinga. And I don't know how it worked out, but I for sure know how you will look like at the end of this talk. And this will pretty much this. So it will be intense. There will be a lot of things. I try to get it right, but anyway, if you have any questions, if something is too fast and doesn't match your understanding, please let me know. Starting with infrastructure monitoring, which is kind of the core of the monitoring, probably was in the past, is Icinga. We had our last release 2.14 in July. So who is already on 2.14? What? What are you saying? Okay, no zero release for you. No, it's good enough. So we released version 2.14 in July. There happened a lot in the area of the config reload. So if you have a large configuration and your reload takes a long time, a lot happened there. I come to this later. We have a new thing like redundancy groups for dependencies, which is a pretty cool feature. And also the check commands for Icinga for Windows are included in Icinga 2.14. They are, of course, different other things which came with version 2.14, but this is like the general things. Really interesting is the performance improvement we made during the reload of Icinga. We had that problems with users who had really a large amount of services and hosts, like hundreds of thousands, that the reload could take a very long time. Also, it's totally depends on how people use Icinga, if they use a lot of apply rules or how they manage their configuration. So it's not the way you can say 100,000 services here take 30 minutes and the same way on the other side, because it totally depends on how you use the configuration. But what happened is that we spend a lot of time, and this is pretty much what you see in that yellow area. We spend most of the time during the config reload on system I/O and not on user I/O. So most of the time, and this is like the blue line is the context switches, mutakes and all that stuff killed pretty much the performance. And then version 2.14, we eliminated this, which means that the sys and also the context switches is pretty much to zero. And depending on the configuration, pretty much an improvement by half of the time a reload takes. So if that's an issue you have and reloading Icinga takes a long time, definitely you should consider using version 2.14 because it really improved your configuration. Somebody has that feeling and already has it in production and figured out that it's way faster? Yeah, okay. What the others? Did you experience, have you experienced something? Something, okay, whatever. Give it a shot. Another thing is the redundancy groups. So you have dependencies in Icinga where you can, of course, depend services or objects to other objects, and which is also new with version 2.14 that you can combine these dependencies together. So you can group them. There was a lot of feedback and a pull request coming in from Edgar Fu, so from using this way to say thank you about it. You can group these dependencies together, which makes it easy to, like the typical infrastructure services you have, like an, I don't know, DNS or an LDAP, and combine these dependencies together to, at the dependent service, decide if one of these services is available. You can pretty much achieve some of these ideas using the business process modeling and create an end of OR and create the service using the Icinga CLI. You can pretty much mimic the same behavior, but since it's now integrated in the configuration, this is way easier. So even if one of these LDAP servers, for instance, is okay, or one of the DNS services is okay, your service could be available. So this is a really, really cool feature. You can also mix it. So if you have like standard dependencies and also if you have like these group redundancies, you can build them together in the configuration path. It takes a moment to wrap your head around it, to be honest. I read that blog post like 3 or 4 times to understand it, how it really works, and asked Julian, one of the developers, how that works and to really wrap my mind around it. But it's a really cool feature. So I would highly recommend get the documentation, read it, but it's something, it needs some time. So it's really a hot thing.
Ooh, this is hot.
So this way, visit the docs, really wrap your mind around it and figure out what it is. Icinga for Windows. Who has been to Christian's talk in the morning? Oh, I would say like 50%. So then this is pretty much a duplicate of that content you have seen already, but for the others, just to give you an idea what happened there. Christian released Icinga for Windows 1.11 in August. An important thing is that it breaks the compatibility with the old previous performance data. This is something you have to keep in mind if you update it. Yeah, awesome. It's important to know. There are new versions for these plugins for Hyper-V, MS SQL, and Cluster. And also he ships dashboards for Grafana if you use it. So for that Icinga for Windows part, you can just import these dashboards into Grafana and have everything like pre-configured there. Who has been in his talk, he's seen that he's also working on upcoming version. It's version 1.12 now he's working on, with more and more stuff to make management of Icinga for Windows easier. Also, there's another dashboard. So there's a lot of coming in that area. And for all of you who haven't seen Christian's talk in the morning, I just summarized it a little bit. It was hard to follow him. It was hard. So he was fast. Check out the archive. So if you would like to dig deeper in the Windows thing, because he talked about it a long time, he's way more into Icinga for Windows than I am, but it's just like a talk on its own, and it's an own field. So check out the archive of the conference. It will be available in, let's say 1 or 2 weeks from now. And then you can find Christian's talk and learn about where we are moving there from Icinga for Windows. Certificate monitoring, who is using this? Who has no clue what it is? Okay, that would be interesting why you don't use it. For whatever reason, we'll learn that later. Icinga certificate monitoring is something you could imagine to monitor certificates. We had the latest release in October. With that, we had Postgres support because that was a missing piece in the older versions of Icinga certificate monitoring. Who's running on Postgres? And the rest, MySQL. Probably, of course, we don't support MongoDB. So there's like a 90% MySQL user base. We know that it's happened, but also we see that more and more people starting new using Postgres now. This is definitely like, I would not say there's a shift, but we see some movement, more and more people using Postgres. So we have that support. Filter and search bar, which is a part of the IPL, is included there, so the UI looks different. And also it gives you the possibility to create jobs for specific IP ranges. So because what Icinga certificate monitoring pretty much does, it scans your network areas and zones to figure out and find certificates you have, pretty much you aware of them or not, and shows you if the certificates are valid, if the certificate chain is valid, so who's like part of this chain, and how many days it will be valid. So it's in some ways super easy, and I know you can also do this with like a check HTTPS, but this gives you a way better overview if you have more certificates, and it's also very interesting. If you go out and scan your network, you will learn how many certificates are outdated, and you have them and run them in production because you just don't monitor them. So this is like a super easy way. Also, you get detailed information about the certificates just in Icinga and learn about your certificate infrastructure. Also, you get an overview in the dashboard and see how many certificates are going to be outdated in the next 3 months, and then you can, however your certificate process works, if you use like self-signed stuff or buy them somewhere, you can take care of it. So this is interesting probably for you. It's interesting to learn that depending on the event you are, that people have no clue that this exists. Even if we try hard to, I don't know, of course, blog about it, write about it, have it in our documentation. For a lot of people, it's still unknown that this works. And it's super easy. Just install it, give it a try, create a job, scan your network, and see what you can find and if this is valuable for you. But I would definitely recommend to check out the docs for the certificate monitoring as well. So Icinga Web, which is the front-end foundation for everything the user sees in this web, was also released version 2.12 in September. Content security policy was a thing, simplified, preventing cross-site scripting and making it more secure in the web. That was an important part. Also, the database migration part from other modules. Modules like Director has it for, I would say, for many years, like automatic database upgrades in the web interface, which was not possible so far. And the other modules is now part of the Icinga web. So if you have modules and have updates and in some way a migration is required, you get this in the web interface and can just start the migration. Also PHP 8.2 support, which all our modules and all the releases which I'm talking about now have this, because this is just important that we support the required PHP versions. Icinga DB web, and how can I say it? We talked about that yesterday. Sometimes it's hard for people to understand what is what. So what is Icinga DB web? We had our own old Icinga. We had a monitoring module. This was in the times of IDO. We had the monitoring module. It was shipped with Icinga web, which is pretty much the module who shows you the monitoring information, like services and host groups and all this stuff. This is the monitoring module. And with Icinga DB, we brought Icinga DB web. So Icinga DB web is pretty much, and I hope I get it right, the replacement for the old monitoring module. But since we would like to give the user a chance to pretty much try it out, also perhaps have both systems running and keep your IDO because you're still on it and want just to see how Icinga DB works, you can have both modules in common. And with Icinga DB web, you connect to the Redis or to the Icinga DB database and get these information there. Though is a little bit hard to understand. Even we have sometimes we mix it up, but this is like the idea, and this is why it is that way it is today. Perhaps we change it in the future and make it more easier. It also some point, perhaps this will be the default monitoring module, whatever. But this is the reason why we have a DB web. It just replaces the old monitoring module. So what came with it? Icinga DB 1.1 was released. DB web was released in September. Keyboard navigation was a thing. We invested a lot of time in the past to work for users which have like a visual impairment, for screen readers, color blindness, and all that stuff. That is a very important thing, and we focused and invested a lot of time in making Icinga better usable for this group of users. And this is really interesting. Also, the host service group grid changed a lot, and also you have more enhanced check details on the service groups. And I would like to show you in a demo how that looks like, which is a really short demo, but it's important to see, I guess. So first of all, for keyboard users, that was always hard to I don't know, go through these services and mark more of them. You can do that now with a keyboard, of course. It's way easier here. This was the check execution part I was talking about, is way more dynamic, that you see what's going on when the next check is executed, that you get a better overview what's going on a specific service. So this part was improved, and it's now way easier also to manage your whole Icinga web using the keyboard. Also, visual impairment is this thing. We had these high contrast teams for a long time. If you go there, you get, for instance, this one. For people with visual impairment, it makes it way more easier to read it. Also for color blindness, we have different color sets. So to be honest, Foy, I don't know if here, gave a lot of talks in the last years over the topic, and for me it was not clear how many people are in that group of visual impaired people. So it's just like, I thought it's like 2% or 1% or whatever, but this is a lot of users. For them, it's an important thing to have like a screen reader available, especially if you, and this is what we see, if you talk to large enterprises, for them it's usually also like a requirement. If they get new software, it's a requirement for them that keyboard navigation, screen reader, and visual impairment is in some way solved, and therefore we put a lot of effort into this. And I don't know, I put my thing. So it's super high contrast that I can't see the button anymore. Sorry. Ah, damn it. Naja. So, now I have it. I go to the default. Yeah. So that's just interesting to know, and this is the reason why I would like to bring it up. Going back to that part. Also there. What? Go ahead. Yeah.
That it is compliant with these standards for integration. Will there be something like that for the new version as well?
I repeat the question, I try to, that in the last Icinga version was like a certificate for visual impairment certification. I don't know, to be honest. Someone knows? Blairim?
I have a ticket open in NETWAYS that you provide me that. So if someone did this,
Well, chatbot, come on. I have no idea. But yeah, it's really, and this was the reason I was mentioning that also for me it was like, it's just a small group, but it's really an important topic. But to be honest, I don't know. Do you know an answer?
What you probably saw was something we did with a large customer in the past. It was like their requirements, which we've met, and those requirements are still met. So Icinga still meets those requirements, but it's not like a official certificate from an official authority or something. It was just in combination with that large customer, and it still kind of applies. But there's no official authority that certifies this kind of. But there are from company to company they have different requirements, and if we get from your company, for example, such a list, we can go through that as well. Does that answer the question? Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. It's mainly, honestly, really creating awareness that this is a thing with software. Even if you have software, it's totally worth like considering this thing like contrast, color blindness, and to tackle this and help a really large user group to make it easier to use your software. Long story short, and that's pretty much it. Icinga Cube. Who knows Icinga Cube? And the rest, never heard of it? Okay, it's like, I don't know, 40%. What is Icinga Cube? It's also there for a couple of years. We released a new version, 1.30 in March. What Icinga Cube is, and I explained it in the screenshot, I also have a demo. I can do a demo if you want to. Was it a no? No, please, no demo. What Icinga Cube is pretty much a visual representation of your data in a way that you don't have to predefine it. Think about like host groups and service groups. This is like a predefined way to group objects together. Let's say location or environment or operating system or whatever you have. And Cube goes with the idea of custom variables that you attach custom variables to your services and hosts, which gives you the possibility to, in a dynamic way, create a view on these data. And, come on, I'll show you. We have time.
do you still translate it to Würfel?
To what, pardon? To cubes? Yeah. Yeah, it's do we say Würfel? No, we don't, right? Where? You mean the web interface translation? Oh, well. I don't know, but we will figure this out. Let's do it. Language. Ach so, ihr seht's ja nicht. Naja. You don't see it. Sorry to give it in English. So, browser, your current language. Why does it not work? Okay, the language is not installed, so we don't have Würfel here. Well, okay, I don't know. Pretty much we take it serious and translate Cube to Würfel. I have no idea. So just to give you an idea, oh my God, I was too fast. The idea of Cube, and I just add two or three dimensions because then you will get it, what it is. We have like, what was it? What I entered location. We get another dimension, which I'm not sure which we use, I guess operating system. So these dimensions you saw up there are pretty much custom variables on these objects. And Icinga Cube gives you a way to order and group hosts and services based on these custom variables to give you a view about objects. In this way, in this example, I group by production and then location and then operating systems, right? So it gives you a hierarchical view on your data based on your understanding. But the thing is, you have with Cube, which you don't have like with host groups or service groups, yet you can just change this perspective and take production as a starting point, or take the location as a starting point, and put operating system under it. So group your data using location and then operating system and then in which state it is, if it's like production or development. And this to a degree where it's super flexible, even with like a large amount of data. So imagine if you have hundreds of thousands of services and would like to get a idea, for instance, if a specific branch office has an issue, I don't know, through an update which was rolled out at night, a specific version of an operating system had an issue, it's super easy to tackle your monitoring information based on these custom variables. Of course, you have to tag your objects with these custom variables that you find it. And this is really, really flexible. Also, something with the new Cube version is that you can, this is the new thing that you can make problems only, makes it easier if you have a large amount of data. You can just focus on specific services or hosts which have a problem. And the idea, because why is it named like Cube, is that you imagine it's like if I don't know if you ever deal with like an OLAP, online analytical processing or something, you put data into a cube and create just like a physical cube you have in front, you just like turn it around. That is the idea of the cube model. You have different dimensions, the location, the production state or the operating system, and just turn this cube, which gives you a different view on the same data. And this is what Cube is, and this is the big differentiation between what a host or service group is. So if you deal with a large amount of services and have your data in good shape, that you also can use these custom variables, this helps you dramatically to find specific issues related to location, operating system, or it could be whatever. It could be also responsible people. It could be a rec or whatever you can imagine. This is like a free concept and free idea of your data to enrich it. Alrighty. So there's a screenshot, but we don't need it anymore, I think. We went through this. I hope, did everyone get the idea of Icinga Cube? Kind of? Yeah, okay. Again, visit the docs. Business process modeling, who's using this? 25%. Do we all write this together that we can remember it afterwards? Okay, Blarim writes it on his hidden type machine. Icinga business process modeling came out in version 2.5. Also, like in other modules, of course, we have the PHP support, but the search bar, which we talked about, the IPL, which is now a common object where you can search and filter your monitoring objects, is part of it. You have an extended business detail and can also show that, and this is one of the search bar. So first of all, the upper screenshot gives you an idea that it's now easier if you have a large amount of service checks to filter them together, which was in the older version very hard to get out of these selects box with 100,000 services to filter the right version out. And also the plugin output is in the detail, where in this example, which is, okay, honestly placed very at the bottom, you see that some children's here in that process have a warning. You get the plugin output automatically in that business process, making it easier to make a root cause analysis and figure out in which area your service has an issue or your business process had an issue. Monitoring automation, Icinga Director. We had the last release, Icinga Director 1.11 in October, so just a couple of weeks ago. A lot of things happened and a lot of issues were there, but to just mention two of them, one was managing notifications, and one was handling with zones. So what is managing with notifications means? Now you can, in Icinga Director, if you manage your contacts using custom variables and attach a contact to a specific host object, you can now use it with Icinga Director and render out the configuration directly. Also, it has a fallback if there's no custom variable on the service. It uses the custom variable from the host object, which you see in this apply rule, that you figure out if there's an object at the service, I take this, otherwise I take that from the host. So if that's something you do, this is helpful. And the topic I mentioned with the zones makes it now easier. So in the previous version, so per default, all the secrets were pushed to the global zone, and now you can just deploy it to the zones you want to. So this is a different behavior. If you work with Director and you have multiple zones and have your secrets in the configuration, this is something you should look into it. Also with the docs there. Oh, this is a run, but I'm get through it, and you too. Icinga module for vSphere. Who's using this? Okay. I think the last version was in April. There was a lot of UI stuff. The whole guest IP stick is now visualized in the Icinga module for vSphere, and all the machines and everything and the data stores could be exported using the REST API. I guess I had a screenshot, but now I don't have a screenshot. Well, yeah, sorry for you, I don't have a demo system for this. But imagine a cool screenshot. Okay. So it is cool if you use vSphere. It gives you a visualization of your hardware. It gives you a visualization of your data stores, of your motions in vSphere. You can really see physical host bus adapters of your hypervisor and can see what's going on. So if you are in that field, it definitely makes sense to give that a try. Also, I think also in the last versions we improved the mobile view a lot. So this is a way easier visualization to get an idea about this. Icinga reporting. Over the last years, we went on a long road through reporting. We have a long story in Jasper reports. I don't know, someone ever deal with Jasper reports in Icinga? Oh, you suffered a lot, I know. It's not bad. It worked in some way, but it's also like it's a blown stack. And we had this Icinga reporting was on our roadmap for many years, and so we are really happy that we released Icinga reporting in the version number 1 in October. There is a new scheduling widget which makes it easier to schedule reports and send them out. You can now, and this is what I show you now, you can create reports directly in every service or host detail list and create a report from there and can export them. And how this looks like, I show you in a small demo. So if you are familiar with reporting, it starts with nothing. You have to create a report. And your report, you give a name. Let's say, blah, 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 test. You give a time frame, last month. You say it's a template. You work like an host service SLA. But then it goes up and you have to put in your filter rule. This is something you should be familiar if you use the older version of it. And this is, if you're not in that filter syntax, it could be hard to filter out the right data you would like to be monitored. And this now is way easier because you can do it in every service and host overview in Icinga DB Web. So if we go to the typical service overview and say, okay, I would like, I don't know, let's say host name. We use the filter bar. No, this is what we don't want to use, the host last changed. And that's going on a lot here. We say host name is like, I think there's some demo system pixel. Okay, let's say, I think you get an idea. You can filter whatever you want, and you get an idea what your service is. You can select them now, and based on the selection you filtered in a host or a service view, you directly can create a report. So we go here to create a service SLA report, because we are in the service view, and directly get this filter rule included there. And then you can say, okay, let's do a test report. Time frame was last month. Template was Icinga brand, service SLA, breakdown no threshold, create and show. Then you directly get an idea. This is the report. This is the result of the availability of these selected services you had before. You can directly go here and download it, of course. And then you get, hopefully, you get a PDF. With your own template, you can style in your own brand. So it's super easy to create your own reporting and put your company logo in it. This is pretty straightforward. But you also can create a schedule on that report to say, I would like to get an email like in a specific frequency, monthly, or let's say weekly. No, this is not good. I take daily. Have something forgotten? No. What is the thing I was looking for? Custom. Yes. Daily, weekly. And you can decide when you would like to get your report by email. You can create multiple schedules for all these reports. So you, for every specific service group, objects, whatever group makes sense for you, you can create a availability report, send them out per email, get a PDF attached. And if you put effort into a good, nice templating, you just get the standard reports for your manager or whoever needs it and whoever reads it. Straight ahead from Icinga reporting. So it's super easy. You can also now clone a previous created report, and it makes it just easier. Going back, how much time do we have? 7 minutes. We will not gonna make it. Surprise. Visit the docs. Jira. Who's using Jira? Okay, you can double this amount of people who are raising this hand. This is like, yeah, well. So Jira, Icinga Web Jira integration. There's also a new version in June. Interesting is that we differentiate between Jira Cloud and on-prem. So it means that Atlassian has the strategy to pretty much everything put into the cloud, and also the Jira in the cloud is also different software than the Jira on-prem. And we have to some way work around with it. We now can also create templates to be used when you create Jira tickets. What it does at the end, it brings your Jira to Icinga, and perhaps also vice versa, to create notifications. You can now create templates how a Jira ticket should look like. So if incident management, and I know it perhaps just tackles, I don't know, 20% of the audience, but since I make it very short, if you use Jira, this could be something for you. If you don't use Jira, there's a high chance that this is nothing for you. But of course, if you use it, take a look. You can configure your templates, you can configure your Jira system, and this is really helpful. So, we come to the new stuff. This is also new stuff, but this is like the new stuff. Notifications. Notifications are in some part the heart of the monitoring, so why notifications are so important? You need to know when something happens, right? Every monitoring doesn't make real sense if you don't get notified with it. And Icinga notifications now work the way they worked for over 10, 15, to be honest with the ancestor, I don't know, for many years, that notifications were bound to services and hosts. And also we had to work around in some areas to get modules who don't, bless you, to don't put your configuration into Icinga core. So if you, for instance, would like to get notification for the business process, you need to make like a dummy check, use the Icinga CLI, get the result and get a notification out. So now, if the Icinga core does not know that the service or whatever specific type of monitoring object exists, it cannot be notified. So the reason is that, and this is the reason why we would like to shift that whole notification part Icinga has now to an incident management approach and take the notifications out of the core in the future. So what is coming with this and what are the goals? So first of all, that we would like to simplify the contact management. So contact management in the configuration could work. I told you before, you have that ID and director, you can use custom variables, but it typically doesn't fit to a, let's say, agile organization with people on duty and different teams managing contacts and notifications in the configuration of Icinga. Perhaps it's not the best way to do it, first of all, but this was the way to do it. So then you have the duty management, like people on call having a specific work schedule. They would like to get notified using nobody using a pager anymore. I don't know, a phone call, WhatsApp, whatever people use. So well-tamed notification channel that you really know what's going on and have kind of a central hub for notifications. Another thing is that we would like to make sure that we can work on that incident. So what you have now is you can get a notification, you can acknowledge it, which your colleague sees, okay, someone is working it, you can write on a comment, but it's not so easy to pretty much to subscribe to some notifications. That this is it's not my services, but I would like to keep an eye on it because I'm working on a system which can have an impact on this, for instance. So how it works currently, everything goes through Icinga too. So every notification needs to go in there. And I think you all know it, how it works. And what we would like to achieve is that we don't have to go with Icinga all the time, that we don't have to put the notifications through Icinga. So the idea is to getting the notifications to another level. That means that we currently have, which Icinga is kind of the core of the monitoring, in the future will be one core of the monitoring. So now Icinga is the central of everything, the Icinga 2 core. It will be one part of the monitoring stack we have to tackle and fulfill host and service monitoring. But I think, and we think it's still a valid requirement to monitor hosts and services. But also there are other things to monitor, like certificates and VMware and business process and other things I will show you later on you would like to monitor that don't fit in this host service schema. But you would like to get alerted as well. So we have to take them out. And I give you a first preview on how Icinga notification will look like. So first of all, I go to the notification part and have a configuration there. So there's an empty calendar. We have some contacts, which are fantastic because we used real living contacts in our managed service and web services team and put them to an English version. Like Zimmermann could be a carpenter is now the roomman. So I find it more funny than it is, I know, but it's I like it. So you have the contacts there. You have, now it's just like a demo system. I add myself as a contact and say, this is what my name is. I can give myself a color. I will show you later why that makes sense. I get a default channel, which is now email. I give myself an email. Rocket Ship username, which I don't know, and I don't need here. My full name is here. I add myself as a contact, which is, okay, hard to imagine what it is. What we also see here, and I jump back to the configuration later on, that we have events. So right now, every event generated by the Icinga 2 core goes into that notification module. So every event we generate, which could be from the core, but could be from any other module, and could be also from, in the future, an external system, goes to that Icinga notification part and creates just an event, which it just goes through. We don't do anything with it right now. And we have another view, which is incidents. And so incidents is when we think a specific event, a group of events could be interesting to notify someone, to create an incident out of it. So it's important to understand that the difference between what an event and an incident is. So what we're doing, I go to a host group, I pick myself one, just because these are, of course, dummy checks. I go to a server here, banana, alrighty. And I turn off active checks. That's it. That there is no active check result coming in. Just to have an example. No, I already forgot what the host group was I chose. What was it? Berlin. Thank you. This is I go. I'm getting old. So we go back to the notification and wireless. Yes, we create an event rule. So I would say, okay, I have an event rule I would interested in these host group events happening there. I say it's OSMC, save, and then I have a filter. And I say, this specific event rule, what I'm interested in. I take this out. This is not yet the final filter here, but it works. I take host group Berlin. I say, I'm interested in host group Berlin. I think you get an idea. And I say, okay, what is the condition I'm interested in? The condition is this: the severity of something is critical. And if you see the drop-down, we have way more states in there than Icinga itself has, because we have warning, okay, critical, and unreachable and pending, so we have some states, but other systems could have way more different states to create an event for, like an information or a debug or a super emergency, other systems create in the future which go through our notification management. But in this example, I would just learn if the event is critical. Then I go here and say, what's going to happen? I would like to send myself an email. And which channel? Because at the end, you can have multiple channels. You can have your, I don't know, Slack, Rocket Chat, whatever you use, and that's it. So it's just a simple rule, and my screen here is not so big that I could see it. Now, okay, can close this, right? Would that work, Blarim? Yeah. Yes, then it's easier. So it's just easier get the idea of that rule. So I'm interested in host group Berlin. That is pretty much my filter. Then I create a condition and say I'm interested in if an incident severity is going to critical in an object, and I would like to alert myself using an email. So I can create this event rule, and then you have this event rule, of course. And then if an event happens, and so the email doesn't come out, but I think you get an idea. If you now have a change in that host group, I get an email. But then you say, okay, I would like to have an escalation for a specific time. You can create another condition of it and say, in this case, I would like to get a severity and get a critical, I get an email. But then I say, okay, there's another one. Another condition, for instance, is incident age. So let's say a typical understanding of an escalation. So it's critical for 2 hours or for 2 minutes or for 2 days. And when the incident age is like larger than 2 hours, I would send Fabian Redrun an email, which his name is Rotlauf. I think it's still very funny, but I know it's just me. And send him an email. So a simple escalation process and rule on this. And if you imagine, and you perhaps you wrap your mind around it, this is just like a standard, let's say, rule on an Icinga 2 event, but it could be a rule on a certificate event. It could be a rule on a vSphere event. It could be a rule on something else I'm showing next to get your notifications sent out through Icinga. And this is really cool. But then you have the case that you say, okay, I don't have a specific contact. I have a schedule I would like to send an email through because you have a working on duty shift. You can do that as well. So we go to the schedule and create a new schedule here. So this is a calendar, obviously, and say we create a new calendar. It's OSMC. We create a new schedule. And then in that specific schedule, because you can have multiple schedules, I create a new entry and say not working because of yesterday. Then there's a recipient. So on duty is, tomorrow it's better that I'm not on duty, the Gaga Hardman is on duty. So we say we start here, his shift ends here, and we have a repeating, is weekly, no, it's custom, so it's weekly, every 2 weeks, starting on Monday, we create an entry for him. And also we can create another one, would say, I think I did it wrong. No, we have to go this way. Yeah, this is way better. To the monthly overview and get another one, also not working. And say, this is another person. This is Martin Shoemaker, Martin Schuster, welcome. And he's starting next week. And get his, and I think you get it already, also weekly, every 2. Okay, I make it wrong. Every 12 is a little bit passive. So then you have a specific work schedule for a contact. And if you have the schedule configured, you can go to the event rule and say, we close this. If host group Berlin, and this again is just a working example, has a problem, I don't want to notify a specific user, I want to notify a specific work schedule. So you are not pinned to a specific user. You can define your own schedules, your own user, their own notification channel, create multiple schedules with entries and sends them some emails. And if you make it right, some emails will end up in their inbox. But the thing is that there is no hard line between the real contact and an event occurring in Icinga. So you can just bind them to a dynamic schedule. And you have seen, and it was just an example, you can do whatever you want. So even if you're on duty shift on Monday, you just configure it, save that schedule, and you can also use like multiple of them, and all your schedules will be listed, and you send out events using this. Also, if I'm a user, and we have this incident, I don't know why I'm a user already. I've done something wrong. I'll check. Oh, this is my failure. Because I need a working user, because the username is matched to Icinga right now. I can also manage an incident which is created, and I also can subscribe to an incident happen. So even if I'm not part of that notification, but I'm working on, I can now in the future subscribe to every incident in the monitoring system or to any other system sending out data to Icinga, and I can subscribe to them and get notified even if I'm not part of that notification chain. And also I can say, I manage this. I don't know if that works. Yes, I can. It works. I can say, I'm taking care of this. There's a question. Can you please use this Icinga cube? Haha. And
this looks amazing. It's total cool. One question: when we already have some on-call management on site, I really want to get rid of it because it's not very good. Mm-hmm. Is there a possibility you said all models can now use this notification module in the future? So is there a way that you implement some kind of general notification module where other application can send their notification, and we use all the management in the notification module of Icinga for it?
That is the idea. It's,
cool.
It's not there now, but
Very
this
cool.
is the idea. That notification is not just a part of the monitoring, it's like the central, and it could be, depending on your requirements to your infrastructure, could be your central notification hub. It sometimes is like a data privacy thing to get your phone calls or your emails out. But that's pretty much the concept of taking the events, taking the rules, and also have two more slides, what other things we have planned now with this, exactly this.
I would like to remind the speaker, the time is precious.
Oh, do we have 10 more minutes?
Sure.
Okay.
It's your money.
Yeah, I wish, I bet. Hurry up. Just how it works. It's an external daemon how it works. So the notifications are handled by an external daemon. It's kind of comparable. No, it's not. Pretty much like IcingaDB is also an external Go process. Notification daemon is as well. Talks to the database and stores all the stuff to the database, and then you have a Icinga web module which queries the database for things coming up, which gives us the possibility in the future to do more with it. One thing is that, of course, we need more channels than email. So this is just the purpose we have now, but it's more things coming up, like ticketing system, I don't know, create a Jira ticket, or fire on PagerDuty, or iAlert, or OpsGenie, or ServiceNow, or whatever you have, SMS like Telegram, so whatever infrastructure used to get your people alerted and use them as a channel. And where we come from there, so what we are doing, we expect a preview release by the end of the year, where you can just play around with it. Also, we have Icinga usability test going on in the boardroom, where you can play with it if you want to. We would like to collect feedback. So what are your requirements for a proper notification? What you need for this? And also with the first release next year, we will have the first channels ready to send notifications out. Sorry, with Icinga notifications. And the version 1 will be released next year. That's the plan so far. And to give you kind of also like an architecture idea, again, we have now the Icinga core, or the future, how we see it, is that the core is one event-creating part of our stack, and there are many others who are creating events and then send to the notification part. What is open currently? High availability is an issue. How can we make this thing high available? How can we attach an Active Directory LDAP to get all your contacts out? So this is an open topic we are aware of and thinking about it. Incident aggregation, that's another thing, because now, and I don't know if you have this and how you have configured your notification part. If you have like a large outage, perhaps you get like hundreds of emails, and your iPhone gets crazy. I don't know if you have that problem, but many users have. And that is something we could think about, like just aggregating the events for 2, 3, 4 minutes or whatever you can configure, and then just like get one email with everything happening right now. So this is a chance, because we take this out of the core, we can work with this event outside and make it more user-friendly, can enhance also the notification information that you get more out of it. And upgrade modules step by step, of course, to the way that all the Icinga modules we currently have and will have in the future are not required to use the Icinga CLI and create kind of a dummy check, so they can directly send events to the Icinga notifications and you get an alert. Coming to the last topic, Kubernetes. Who uses Kubernetes? Who uses Kubernetes and has no clue how it works? 100%. No. So Kubernetes, pretty much you have heard of it, is a thing. And the challenge for monitoring is that it's a highly dynamic infrastructure. It's a highly dynamic environment where things are going to be started and deleted and recreated all the time, which doesn't make it challenging for a traditional monitoring approach. So what traditionally you do, you have like this host, which is like perhaps a Kubernetes node, and you have cloud instance to some extent where you run your Kubernetes. You have services you can monitor. Of course, you can monitor your resources. There are check plugins out there for Kubernetes, of course, where you can monitor it, but it's in somewhere challenging. Of course, you can also automate it as far as you have your data ready and synchronize them using Director, for instance, or using the REST API. But it's like the traditional approach. And so if you look on it, like a Kubernetes could be very complicated. So a lot of different components, different object types Kubernetes had. And this is often really just all set up to create this one. But this is how it is. So in a production environment, it could be complex. To be honest, to see it myself on it, a couple of years back, I was like, oh, this is... I don't know if it's just not overhyped, and I really, over the years, I get it, why Kubernetes makes sense in so many different things. Even Kubernetes doesn't say you have to create 2,000 microservices to create a web shop basket. So if you make it complicated, it's up to you, but there is a real value in Kubernetes in having infrastructure on it, because a lot of things are learned in that community, and also it gives a lot of things to self-monitor your environment, to make sure that you have your replicas available. Things you have in a traditional IT, you have to take care of on your own. Kubernetes takes that away from you. So I think that there's really value. So then the question is, what to monitor with Kubernetes? So we have these hosts, of course. You have Kubernetes itself with like etcd and all the different components, services, pods, containers, metrics, all that stuff. It's complex because you have lots of different resource types. You have persistent volume claims, you have deployments and replicas and all that stuff, so different things. And this is also a part where I would like to in some way close my talk about it, to the way that this world does not fit into host services. And we tried hard for many years in some way, how can we squeeze them in? And this also is currently happening, that in the traditional monitoring world. So either you just squeeze your Kubernetes into host services, but I don't know if it's really a good idea, or people use things like Prometheus, which is fair enough. It gives you a lot of value, and it's super easy, you get something, but a lot of people also don't understand what's in there. So they have an interface, and they have lines, and it looks fantastic, but they have no clue what's going on. And it's surprisingly how many people have no clue what's going on, also with Prometheus and also with graphs. So it's not so easy. So we were looking for a way to make it easy for someone who's perhaps not day-to-day work is really into all these Kubernetes components. Another challenge that is like highly agile. So you have like a pod is running and failing and respawning all the time, so it changes all the time. You have these different pods. You have probes, what you can do with Kubernetes. So you can self-define some probes where Kubernetes checks if your service is available. And we learned from Daniel in the Ignite talk, reliability and availability is a big difference. So there are things Kubernetes has in place to kind of self-check your application. And then it's pretty much the idea how we can tackle that. We can pull the Kubernetes API, we can install a daemon set, which is just installed on every node, and how can we get to the data. So, and what everyone has, if your manager comes to you and say, can we monitor this Kubernetes in an easy way?
What are my chances?
Not good.
You mean not good like 1 out of 100?
I'd say more like 1 out of 1,000,000.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
And this is exactly it. So that is what we hope. What is that? We have an Icinga monitoring, which collects all the resources together, the health, the events, the metrics, and logs and everything. Architecture looks a little bit similar, that we have like an external daemon collecting the data, writing it to the database, giving you a view in Kubernetes, and showing you the information in the web. It's a PHP module in the web, of course. It's a Go daemon who is collecting all the resources and health and everything together, and writes the data and stores it and synchronizes with the database. And how this looks like, we will have a look in here. And I promise this is the last module I'll show you. So first of all, we have the Kubernetes module, and I hope you can see it with different types. We have nodes here, which is just one Minikube on the test machine I'm working on currently now. So just one node. We have some deployments in that Minikube here. We have replica sets. We have daemon sets, which is in this installation just the kube proxy to be the API endpoint on all the node machines out there. So all the different events happening in the Kubernetes you have here. And that's just connected to the Minikube server I'm working on right now. And to give you an idea how fast it is and how dynamic it is, we just deploy, and I hope I'm still online here, we just deploy an full Icinga stack into it. Is anyone familiar with the Icinga Helm charts? Okay, so there are Icinga Helm charts. Are you familiar what Helm is? Okay, it's I hope I get it correct, it's kind of a package manager for Kubernetes, which makes it easier for you to install applications. And there are, I think on the GitHub pages, right? On GitHub pages, there's a Helm chart for Icinga. And I have an Icinga Helm shell script, which is just, the only thing what it does is, let's say, Helm install, creating a namespace for Icinga, using the Icinga stack Helm chart and using some values. The values are the part for the Helm chart in this part where all the secrets are defined. So database users and what modules you would like to install with the Helm chart, if you would like to install the director or not, and which database credentials the director had. So it's an endless YAML lovers file where you can put all the important data. It's super easy. I give a workshop at 3:30 in the morning, and I explain you through all the values, so it's super straightforward. And what it does, and just to give you an idea, so on the test machine in a Minikube, we just start a complete Icinga infrastructure. So I start Icinga Helm, create this, then I have a deployment, and you already see that the deployment is ready. So the full Icinga Helm chart deployment in that Kubernetes is ready, is visible, and you can go through it and really dig deep into all that objects. So the idea was that this should not be a replacement for the existing Prometheus you have, perhaps, or you have another management software in place to monitor Kubernetes. It could be a replacement, probably. But the idea is to give you an easy understanding what applications, what deployments you have, and get a root cause analysis if something does not work. If somebody calls and says there's a problem in deployment, you figure out it's not healthy. We can also we can just fire up something else which does not work. For instance, I think this will not work. Did I mean apply? Ja, klar. Ach so. It's late, sorry. So there's a payment who does not work because the quota is not matched. So this deployment doesn't work, so you immediately see it. Also in the future, this goes out as an event to Icinga notifications, and you get notified for a broken Kubernetes deployment without the old new existing Icinga core needs to know about that infrastructure because it just does not fit into that area. And then you see everything. You see replica sets. You see that their replica could not be filled because of a quota. You see the persistent volume claims, so every volume happened in the Kubernetes environment. You can have them there, and you can also really go down to, let's say, the Icinga DB, get all that information. You see the replica sets of Icinga DB. Don't leave me wireless. You see the pods. Go there and go down to the container and see the latest container log file. So you don't have to log in somewhere. You see everything in the web interface, and in the future get notified by the notification manager. That's the idea.
So will this be finished next week?
Pardon?
Will this be finished next week?
Probably not. The question was if it will be finished next week. I don't know. So the plan, honestly, was to have a pre-release ready to the OSMC. But because of some sickness of some colleagues, we were not able to do it. But it will be ready, I would say, in the next weeks. Definitely, I would say that we get like an early preview this year should be possible. So this is like a working product, but there are some things to do to make it more easier. Get like a health check if your connection to the Kubernetes works. But soon, I would say. I know soon is like a, well, yeah, but very soon. So what's next? And then I'm at the end. I think you get an idea where we would like to go. That Kubernetes is next, and then many other things will come, and we will get more technology out of the host service context, creating their own modules, giving you a better visibility from the Icinga perspective, and that you are not so in charge of understanding metrics, getting your different object types together. So we will take the job for you and create unified views for a specific environment, for specific infrastructure providers, and bring them all together in Icinga Web in the Icinga notifications. There are two events I would like to highlight. First of all, the usability test, I already told you, is taking care in the boardroom. I think there are 2 or 3 slots left for tomorrow. If you are from beautiful Switzerland, we have an Icinga meetup Zurich at the end of November. You can find all the information at meetup.com/icinga.zurich. We will have an Icinga summit next year in Berlin. We don't have an Icinga Camp Berlin next year. We will have an Icinga summit, which will be a 2-day conference and probably more. More details in the next weeks. I would say June is pretty much the kind of fixed time frame. Like OSMC will be at sometime in November next year. Please take June and November off next year to be ready for these events. And with this, I thank you for your patience. I wish you a wonderful night. We start walking from here still. You have an hour to get more nice than you already are. And thanks for staying with me, and hope you enjoyed the day, and have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.